All right, let's start by taking a look at this next page in your packet, and we're still dealing with area and circumference of circles, so I hope that you have your formula sheet handy. And in fact, a lot of times what I like to do is put the formulas right on top of my sheet if they're not provided. So you think area is pi times the radius squared, or I like to write it as r times r. And then circumference is the one where we just take pi times diameter. Okay? All right, now let's take a look at what they're asking us to do in each of these. Find the radius, find the diameter, and find the circumference of each circle. So really what we need to do is we need to write r equals, d equals, and c equals on every single one of these. Okay, and I'm going to do my work over here. Now, I have given you the area, 196 times pi square yards. We have to work backwards from this information in order to figure out our other pieces. Now, my area formula says pi times r times r. Okay, so I know that pi times my radius equals 196 times pi. Okay, write that down, because this is area of a circle, and this was the area you were given. Now, pi is a number, and it is perfectly legal to divide both sides of an equation by the same quantity or same value, and pi divided by pi would be 1. That means r times r equals, pi divided by pi is 1, 196. Aha! This means, r to the second power is 196. To undo this, I don't do it with division. We have to take the square root of each side. R equals the square root of 196. All right, so now remember on your calculator, how do you take the square root of 196? Remember that the square root, or the radical function, is a second function under the x squared button. So press second and x squared, that will give you the radical symbol. Then type in 196 and then hit equals, and we discover, oh, that's exactly 14. All right, that means that our radius now is 14. So over here, over by the r, I'm going to put my radius is 14, and that will be in yards. From there, and if you need to draw a circle, by all means draw a circle. Down here, when I draw my circle, and I'm thinking my radius is 14, that means my diameter has to be twice as big, meaning my diameter will be 28 yards. And then to find circumference, remember that circumference is pi times diameter, pi times 28. So go ahead and grab your calculator and take pi times 28, and oopsies, hold on, I'm using my calculator, times 28, and I get a value of 80. No, now this is a good one, because when you calculate this, you end up with a value of 87.96. So when I get that value, 87.96, and it says round to the nearest tenth. Actually, it probably doesn't say that up here, but I want you to round to the tenth place. This is a 9, but next door is a 6, which means I should round this up to 10. So you should write 88.0. And then circumference is just a length or a distance, so 88.0 yards. The radius is 14, the diameter is 28, the circumference is 88. Now that's pretty messy. All right, so we've got a lot of information you have to include. Let's take a look at number 2. If my area is 36 pi square meters, okay, and I'm asking you to find the radius, the diameter, and the circumference, what you need to do is say, well, I know that area is pi r squared, or pi times r times r. I usually have you right. And I'm telling you your area is 36 pi. 36 pi equals pi times r times r. Divide both sides by pi, and you will see that 36 is r times r, or r squared. So take the square root of 36, and you should get that your radius is 6. My label is meters, so there's the radius. All right, once you have the radius, if you need to draw a circle over here, think about it. Here's the radius of 6. That means my diameter has to be 12 meters. Circumference, I'm looking up here at my formula, is always pi times diameter. Pi times diameter. My diameter is 12. So I have to take pi times 12. Okie dokie. So go ahead, grab your calculator. Pi button times 12. And I get 37 point, and now I get 6, 9, and then it keeps on going. Round this to the tenths place. 37 and 7/10. My label is meters. So for number 2, 6 meters, 12 meters, 37.7 meters. Okay. I will let you go ahead and tackle 3 and 4, but what I would like you to do is jump on down to this one. On this half, 6, 7, 8, and 9, you are being asked to find the radius and diameter again, and this time the area given the circumference, and here round your answers to the tens place. Now, here's what I'm looking at. Circumference is 25.1. That means, okay, that pi times diameter, because circumference means pi times diameter. Pi times my diameter is 25.1. Okay? That means to figure out, first of all, what my diameter is, I should divide both sides by pi. So grab your calculator now, and this one is not going to be so nice and neat and tidy. All right, we're going to get some decimals here. So when I take 25 and 1/10 and I divide it by pi, your calculator screen says to you something around 7.989 and so on. And if I round that, 7.98, I have to round that to 8.0. So my diameter is around 8. I'm going to leave it with the 0.0 there. I'm in miles. Miles. Your radius is exactly half the size of the diameter, so it's simply dividing that by 2, I get 4. Now, when I go to find the area, area is pi times the radius times the radius. Sorry for the little squiggle here. Pi times radius, or r squared. So, go ahead, grab your calculator, and we're going to take pi times 4 times 4. All right, so pi times 4 times 4 is 16 times pi, and you should end up with around 50 point, well, I get around 50.26 or 27, and rounding to the nearest tenth would be around 50.3 or 50 and 3/10, and I get square miles. Area always has square units. Okay. All right, let's look at this next one. Circumference is 31.4. I'm asking you to find the radius, the diameter, and the area. So over here I'm going to do my work. I know that circumference means pi times diameter, and I get 3.1 or 31.4. So when I divide both sides by pi, you should end up with your diameter being equal to, and I think when you round this, see, I get like 9.99. So you end up with a diameter when you round it to the tenths place of 10. Okay, or 10.0 centimeters. The diameter, if you need to draw a picture, remember diameter goes all the way across. That's 10. That means my radius is 5 centimeters. To find the area, I take pi times the radius times the radius. So I'm going to take pi times 5 times 5. 25 times pi gives me, and round it to the nearest tenth, so I get approximately 78 and 5/10. It's area, which means your units get squared. Let's work on these last couple here. Okay, circumference is 62.8. I know I'm looking for the answers of radius, of diameter, and area. Circumference is pi times diameter, and that equals 62 and 8/10. Okay? All right, divide both sides by pi. When you do that, pi divided by pi on the left side is 1, so I get diameter. Over here, you get a value of 19.98. Okay, and then it keeps going. And when you go to round this to the tenths place, you need to really round this to 20, or 20.0. So my diameter is 20.0. The radius, hang on 1 second so I can get my pen to work right again. The radius will be half that, and by the way, this is in yards, so my radius will be 10 yards. And then I need to find the area, which is going to be pi times the radius times the radius. When you calculate this out, pi times 100, you get 314 point, and then it'll be 1/5, so round that to 2/10, and this will be square yards. There you go. Moving on to these last two, number 9, and we'll do these together because I think going backwards from circumference might be a little more challenging. Okay, problem number 9. Again, you need to give me the radius, the diameter, the area. If the circumference is 22 miles, that means pi times the diameter is 22. And to solve it, you need to divide both sides by pi. That means your diameter is 22 divided by pi, which rounds to 7, or 7.0, when we have the to the nearest tenth. And that's in miles. Your radius is half of this. Okay, the diameter is twice as big, which means this would be 3 5/10, or 3.5 miles. Area means pi times radius. So we're going to take pi times 3.5 squared, or 3.5 times 3.5. This point, I would definitely say, thank you, guy that invented the calculator. Here we go, because that's a whole lot of decimals. This, and we're going to round this to the tenths place, is approximately 38.5, and since it's area, this is going to be square miles, 38.5 square miles. All right, last but not least, this problem number 10. And again, we're finding radius, we're finding diameter, you're finding area. If the circumference is 61.6, that means pi times the diameter, because that's what circumference is 61.6. Divide both sides by pi, because pi divided by pi will be 1. This will help you figure out what our diameter should be when you take 61.6 and divide it by pi. This time, I get, when I round to the tenths place, around 19.6, because then it goes 19.60. All right, and that is in inches, so I'm going to say it's around 19.6 inches. Radius is always half of this, so this is probably around 9.8, I believe, inches. So now to find area, take pi times 9.8, whoopsies, times 9.8. Or you could on your calculator plug in 9.8 squared. That would be fine as well. Okay, this should be around 300 because I'm thinking this is around 10, that's close to 10, that's a little more than 3. So when I plug it in, 9.8 times 9.8 times pi, I do get really close to 300. 301 and 7/10. My label will be square inches. All right, your job now is, of course, to go back and finish problems 3 and 4 like we had done there. And then go ahead and work on IXL. I'll add a little page in here. And the objectives that I want you to work on in IXL are related to these, getting a circumference and area and working backwards to find specific parts. These are objectives P22 and P23. Again, your job is to get a SMART score of 80 or higher, and then you can move on to the next one. Good luck.